Horror is a divisive genre. Some people love it, some people avoid it like a plague. There's good reason to be cautious. It can keep you up at night. And we associate it with negative emotion, such as anxiety and trauma. So it can be downright strange why one would voluntarily submit themselves to distress. Well, those who like horror movies can be described as thrill seekers, cause the scares in them give us a shot of adrenaline and dopamine too. We like the rush of being chased by a dangerous being, and we can practice it safely. Chances are, if you like riding roller coasters, you enjoy thrillers too. But whether you're a fan or not, you probably heard of how we're supposed to play or experience horror. Turn the lights off, put on headphones. It's kinda similar to going to the theaters. What for? Well, people say it's about immersion, to enhance the experience. Beyond this though, it can be hard to elaborate further, but I think I have an answer. Though I'll be talking about horror games, the concept may apply to other media like movies and TV shows. Horror is a genre of fear. It makes us paranoid. The monster's most dangerous when it's right in front of us, but it's the most frightening when we don't know where it is. And the darkness and intense sounds help to wrap us in such a state. We do it to isolate our senses. While other genres may try to be as realistic as possible, in horror we're often presented with something unreal. Body horror, goo on the walls, mold monsters, little things with 100 legs. So designers try to make the unreal feel real. Visual horror may be the primary trigger of the sympathetic nervous system. We imagine ourselves as the endgame character and feel what they would feel. And the good news is, it's gotten better with time. But we're discussing playing horror in a dark room, so let me introduce you to a theater-goer's blight. The cell phone user. Any light in a dark movie theater hinders the experience in two ways. Since the movie is actually a projection, any light will make it harder to see. But not an issue with our screens at home. Those emit light quite adequately. But more importantly though, the light can be distracting. A major offense to immersion. Some would also say darkness is scary, but I don't think that helps much. Instead, the singular light source will make it easy to focus. And I don't think this practice is exclusive to horror. You can dim the lights and watch a rom-com and you'd have the same effect. But there's something else to horror, much more important than its visuals. Watch this scene from the start of Dead Space. Clearly, something's not right. Now watch it with sound. Yeah, needless to say, sound is really important in horror. I mean, just listen to all the little noises you hear in this hallway. Sound designers utilize techniques to make them a lot creepier, and it'd be too much to get into this video, but here are a few points. They make unnatural sounds, familiar but also enhanced, like screaming monsters sounding like a mix of animal roars. When we hear something like this, our survival instincts would attribute it to danger. There are also environmental sounds and ambiance. These are sounds where the source is hard to pinpoint, which adds to our discomfort and uncertainty. In the industry, these are called non-diegetic sounds. And finally,
Little pig.
the unsteady volume. Compared to visuals, our brains react to sound about 30% faster, but we also have the startle response. You know what it's like when you hear something like... Which brings me to my next point, the shock to our senses. I think this is why horror games can be so stressful. One minute we're fighting zombies and trying to conserve ammo, the next we're in a save room with soothing music. Our senses are constantly adapting to our current environment to make them bearable, and it can happen in less than a minute. It's called sensory adaptation. I made a short video if you want to experience it. Just click the thingy on the YouTube player. Now imagine this. We get a glimpse of something dangerous. Let's call this Anticipation. Then we get away safe to a silent room. We're meant to feel it's over, or there's nothing there after all. I'll call this Security. But then... yeah, that silence before the reveal really does a lot to enhance the scare. Some adjustments can also take some time, as Professor Theodore Erisman showed. In one experiment, he wore goggles that flipped everything he sees upside down. Which direction do you tilt your hand here? Yeah, you can imagine this is quite disorienting. But he eventually got accustomed to the world being flipped. The woman in this clip did it within 7 days. Maybe this is also why when we push through the stress long enough, we can become desensitized to the horror. Personally, 2 hours into my time with Dead Space, it wasn't as scary anymore. So my suggestion would be to take a break. It might benefit your overall experience. But is it a good idea to play horror games with a good sound setup and lights off? And why is it that this seems to be pushed as a necessity only for the thriller genre? I think there's good reason for it. Horror is as delicate as a story-driven game. You get one chance to experience it at its purest. And that's on your first playthrough, because you know little of what's coming. All of that fear will come from the unknown. After that, well, second playthroughs are really not the same, which is why people can tolerate speedrunning Resident Evil over and over again. So yeah, I support the practice, and just maybe play on a higher difficulty setting to bump up the tension. Playing in the dark can cause eye strain, but that'll get better with some rest. The belief that it causes lasting eye damage is basically a myth. I also didn't talk about psychological horror because yeah, it's something else entirely. But that's it for now. If you'll excuse me, I have an Outlast sequel to finish.